Hi everybody, Queeveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the night sky for Valentine's night. With all of the looking ahead to the parade of planets at the very end of the month, I have skipped over this reasonably famous date in the middle of the month. Of course, the 14th of February is Valentine's Day. People don't really seem to say Saint Valentine's Day, or at least not anymore. It's just Valentine's, and it. I do remember being told the story of the Saint Valentine, but of course it's mostly about giving chocolates and going out to restaurants and things. But it is a good night for stargazing. Stargazing, of course, is a fantastic cheap date, a free date, if you do it right. Looking at the night sky here for Valentine's night for Cork City, we've got Saturn, Venus, Jupiter, Mars, all there together, all nice and clearly visible just before 7 o'clock, as long as you don't have too many things in your way down in that western horizon. Saturn is still. Venus, of course, the goddess of love in ancient mythology, Venus or Aphrodite, depending on Greek or Roman mythology. Not just, of course, Venus and Aphrodite are often seen as, not always seen as gods of love necessarily, but familial love, the love in general, the kind of love that gets celebrated on Valentine's Day, was certainly part of the job that Venus and Aphrodite had. They also, in many stories, represented that kind of love, various different kinds of love, of course. This is our view from the city, and sunset, it's a fantastic time to go looking for stars and planets. It is also often considered quite a romantic time of the evening. Venus being the very first brightest object to come out, the evening star on Valentine's is nice. It's a nice little thing to point out. Quickly followed by Jupiter, Mars, Saturn, a little bit fainter and a little bit closer to the sunset, so it is a little bit tougher to see. We've then got Orion. There is a lovely story about Orion the Hunter, and how Orion the Hunter was friends with Artemis the Hunter, and how the Scorpion that we see as the constellation Scorpius was eventually sent to capture or kill Orion. There are a few different versions of the story. I do go through it in a previous video on this channel, but it is a nice story. I may go through it again, along with the story of Perseus and Andromeda and Cassiopeia and Pegasus. That whole story in the sky as well is something of a love story, depending on how you tell it. Pollux and Castor, Apollo and Hercules, brotherly love, two brothers together in the sky. We often call Gemini the twins. Of course, Apollo and Hercules were really half brothers, but still, familial love, all nice things that we can talk about on Valentine's. We won't go too much later. Sunrise on Valentine's morning. Of course, it's a sunrise, it's going to look great, but there aren't any planets or anything interesting like that to see. If you're in the right location, you may be able to catch a comet. I think there is still a comet coming around the sun if you're in the right place, but for most people, the sunset is going to provide the more reliable view. We will quickly head out to the countryside. So, I did get a question on a previous video. I don't always explicitly say it, but I say that I'm going from a smaller city, which Cork City is, out to a pristine dark sky. So this is Bartle Class 5, roughly Bartle Class 5, which is listed as a suburban sky, but that's more true to my experience than the bright suburban or urban transition sky that we get with sort of Bartle Class 7 and 8. That kind of view is not the view that I get. But for the planets, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn, for the bright stars in Orion, seeing Orion's belt, it doesn't really matter too much. You can see that we are losing some of the other stars. We're losing some of the square of Pegasus there. But for the planets, especially for Venus, it doesn't really matter where you are. You're going to be able to see Venus at least, even if it's only Venus. Here we are in a true countryside sky. We'll come back to sunset. So this is Bartle Class 1. This is no light pollution, a perfect sky. This can be hard to get to, but anything around 1, 1 or 2, that's going to give you a much better view of the night sky. And for bright objects, we don't need to worry about it too much. If we're looking at the sky at around sunset, of course it will look nicer if you're in the countryside, but with the extra glow in the sky, it doesn't have to be a perfect dark location until you're staying out past sunset. Or if you're looking for fainter things, if you want to take a look at Uranus, A telescope will be required to get a good look at Uranus. Neptune's a bit too low in the sky. We've got the Seven Sisters, the Pleiades. Of course, you can take a look at Orion's sword, pushing a little bit later and getting a little bit darker. We still don't really get to see much of the Milky Way. You get to see a little bit of the outer arm of the Milky Way there, kind of just under Gemini and above Orion, crossing the sky through Cassiopeia down the other side. But we can see, down there's the Summer Triangle, and below that would be Scorpius. We're not going to see much of the core of the Milky Way until sunrise. So there's the moon. The moon is past full, so we're not going to see it for the early part of Valentine's. If we take a look here, 4 o'clock in the morning, so certainly pretty late, we can see that it is just past full. It is still a very illuminated moon, 93.5% illuminated, so still mostly illuminated, but not up in the very earliest part of the evening, not up as the sun is setting. So here we are coming around to morning time. This is about as dark as we will be able to get it, but we can see a little bit of the Milky Way there, of course, with the light of the only just past full moon and the quick approach of the glow of sunrise. By the time the top of Sagittarius there and the core of the Milky Way are up, the sun's up, so we're not really going to get to see them. That is for us here in Ireland. For most places in the Northern Hemisphere, it's going to be pretty similar. But, of course, not everyone can be with the person they want to be with on Valentine's. Lots of people live in different locations, live away from somebody that they would like to celebrate Valentine's with. So we are going to head first back into the city. Again, most people live in cities, so to give a realistic view, it's probably going to be a view from a city sky. We'll check the countryside again a little bit later. But we're going to head down to the southern hemisphere. Way down in the southern hemisphere. I want it to be a dramatic enough difference. We'll go all the way down to, kind of around New Zealand down here. New Zealand is pretty far south. It's not as far south as Ireland is north. We can see there we're at 55 degrees south. Pretty far south. So anywhere around Australia or South Africa, you'd be even closer to the equator than this. A lot of maps seem to omit New Zealand, so seeing as it is actually included here, I thought we might as well go to New Zealand and take a look from there. So here is the already looking very different sky. We're, of course, after going through time zones as well, so we are looking at a different time. Let's bring it back to the middle of the day. And the middle of the day in the southern hemisphere means seeing the sun at its highest in the north, which is always a little disconcerting for me. I'm sure it wouldn't be too disconcerting in the real sky, but when it says north, when it's labeled like that, it looks a little bit strange. So here we are on Valentine's. We'll move back. This would be Valentine's. Yeah, Valentine's night. The sun setting over in the west. It looks like everything's running backwards, but that's only because of the direction in which we're seeing it, because we're down on the other side of the planet. It doesn't look... we must be... There's the moon. It's very strange. I don't seem to be seeing Venus there when I should be. Venus should be... I guess Venus is behind a tree. It's nice to know that it's not just our view here in Ireland that is affected by the trees in this way, but we've definitely got Jupiter and Mars there. At least we've got Jupiter and Mars nice and clear. Of course, it is summertime. If you are in the southern hemisphere, if you are down in New Zealand, then it is summertime. There's Saturn. I'm assuming Venus must be, just there, just behind the tree. So because of the angle at which we're seeing the planets here, Venus is actually lower in the sky for 45 degrees south than we're seeing it in the sky at 52 degrees north. But that is just down to the seasons. If the season was the same, if we were comparing northern summer to southern summer, then it wouldn't look so advantageous for us. But because we're comparing the different seasons here, the southern hemisphere heading into winter, the northern hemisphere heading into summer, that difference in the seasons does make a big difference to what we see in the sky. We've still got Jupiter and Mars there. We've got the moon as well. Similar 93, we're seeing it there at 96% full because of the difference in the time zones. And also because we're looking at the moon here at a different time of the night for this location. And because it is only a little bit after sunset, you might get to see a little bit of that kind of orangey yellow glow. This is what the moon looks like from the southern hemisphere, so it does look upside down compared to what we're used to in the northern hemisphere. The Sea of Tranquility is still there to be seen, of course. We'll zoom back out. Orion is above Mars and Jupiter here, and of course upside down as well. Upside down compared to what we're used to in our hemisphere here in the north. So there's Orion, there's Sirius. We'll push a little bit later. Oh, wrong direction. We'll push a little bit later to get the last of that sunlight out of the sky, and very quickly we'll head out to that perfect pristine dark sky again. There we go. We can see that glow of the Milky Way. It's still an outer arm of the Milky Way, but we can see more of the kind of back end. We're closer to the equator at 45 degrees south than we would be at 52 degrees north. There is the large and small, well, that presumably is the large Magellanic Cloud, yeah, and the small Magellanic Cloud just down there. So if you have a telescope, if you're in a dark sky in the southern hemisphere, we will take a closer look at some of the deep sky objects in a future video. You can see the Pleiades there are way down at the horizon, very different from what we'd be used to in the northern hemisphere. But I think most importantly, Jupiter and Mars are still there, very clear, very clearly above the horizon. So if you are in the northern hemisphere on Valentine's and you are talking to someone in the southern hemisphere on Valentine's, as long as the time zones aren't too different, you'll be able to look at Jupiter or Mars, looking at the same planet, the same stars, even from different sides of the planet. So I hope you get an opportunity to go stargazing on Valentine's. That's really the highest priority for me, is to get out and take a look at the stars, regardless of any of the other reasons or motives you might have. I hope you get to see this night sky from either side of the planet. If you enjoyed this video, please do like it. If you enjoy this kind of content, then please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you'd like to read some of this information, you can head to my website, queebeanscontent.ie, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.